Welcome back, guys. We're back for another episode, and today we're going to be talking about bad film sequels or bad sequels in general. You could say that this is a sequel to our last episode, so hopefully this isn't a bad sequel. And once again, I'm joined with the wonderful and eccentric Neil. Say hello, Neil.
Hi there.
And I'm joined again with the ever smart and brainy Andrew. Say hello.
Thanks, Craig. Hello. Craig, I think every episode you top the intros each time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Andrew. So how are you both doing? You both keeping well?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Not too bad.
Yeah, I've just been hiding in a dark hole waiting until the next episode. Such is my life now.
Yes, it's getting us through these dark
times.
Yes.
These are dark times, there's no denying.
Yes, I think I'm going to try and get through a single episode without referring to Star Wars, but if
well, you've done it already. We're 2 minutes in.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say if the sort of the COVID times could be like almost COVID would probably be like Empire Strikes Back. You know, I mean, it's kind of dark and bleak, and
yeah.
Hopefully, as we move on, we'll all be dancing with the Ewoks at the end, But anyway, silly intros over with. As I say, folks, we're going to be talking about film sequels and sequels in general, sequels that have been quite poorly received and have often not lived up to the original, as opposed to last week's episode where we were talking about good sequels. This one, we're going to be talking about bad. So we started with Andrew last week. This week, we're going to start with the elegant and smart Neil.
Oh, thank you.
Kick us off.
Yeah, bad sequels, I suppose. The first ones I sort of think of are the Jaws sequels, primarily 3 and 4. 2 is decent enough, doesn't really add anything extra. But, you know, it was still like Roy Schneider in it. And, you know, it was Roy Schneider, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, I get him mixed up with Rob Schneider.
Yeah. No, I think it was
Roy. Yeah, it was Roy Schneider, yeah. But no, so second one I'll sort of give a pass. Wasn't a patch on the original, but was still a decent enough sequel. But the third and fourth one, for me, just... You know, third one, I think they tried to do something different, which you can say fair enough. Moved it to like SeaWorld.
Was it not like... Sorry to cut in, Neil, but was it... Yeah. I don't know if it was the third one, but was it not Jaws 3D was one of them, I think?
Yeah, I was going to say, they tried to make it like 3D, and it just really looked bad. The acting wasn't great either.
Yeah. I think... sorry to cut in again, but I think that's a really good choice because, you know, perhaps infamously... Michael Caine's actually in one of them.
The fourth one, yeah, Jaws to Revenge.
Yeah, and it's quite funny because he's quite famous for saying that he never actually saw the film, but he saw the house that the film.
Yeah, well, it bought in the house, didn't it? I always like that quote. I'm like, you know, fair enough, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Jaws to Revenge, you know, just got silly. Like I think what it was. Chief Brody's wife had like a telepathic connection or something with the shark, and it was like stalking them to the Bahamas, and it was just like, you know, really. So I'm quite relieved when Steven Spielberg, I think, so quite recently they never remake Jaws. You know, I mean, a part of me is kind of intrigued to see how it'd come out, what it would look like today, but it's probably, you know, it's good enough as it is, so it is probably best left untouched.
I'm still waiting.
The amount of shark movies there, it's like, yeah.
Oh, I know. There's so many, and none of them have really lived up to Jaws. You know, they're very hard to do. I think shark movies. You know, especially if you're trying to do it seriously, you can do a parody quite well.
Yeah,
but you know, like Sharknado and stuff like that. You know.
Yeah. Well, I'm still waiting for Jaws in space. That'll be the next one.
Oh, I know.
You know, and it's quite funny because last week's episode, I was speaking about Back to the Future, and the second Back to the Future film, there's actually a reference to like Jaws.
Was it like Jaws 25 or something?
Jaws
like that?
25, yeah, in the future, and that's just a funny little connection. No, but Jaws, that's a good one because as of we all know that the first Jaws film is one of the most iconic films in history.
Yeah. Hard to believe it was 75. Still holds up very well.
It's quite crazy thinking that like the shark itself and the use of like the shark itself was almost like a puppet. It was a puppet, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they like had mechanical failures and whatnot, which actually helped the film in a way because it meant that they couldn't really show it.
Yeah,
and that's part of what makes Jaws so iconic, I think.
Exactly, and then like you say, the second one was passable, but
yeah, it was for a sequel. It was decent enough. It was enjoyable.
But then the more it went on, the worse it got. And Neil, you've just set up a good point that I'm going to make. I won't make it just now because I'm eager to hear what Andrew's got to say, but I'll come back to that. So yeah, Jaws is a good choice for that. Andrew, what do you have?
Well, it's quite funny. The lead up to this episode, I was kind of set on what I was going to say, and it was the Terminator franchise. Because I feel like the Terminator franchise has pretty much just been stuck in an endless loop since Judgment Day of just trying to be Judgment Day and trying to retcon itself and set up other movies that would never happen. But then today they announced the third Fantastic Beasts movie.
Oh, it's funny. I was just reading that on Facebook while I was waiting for you guys to come on.
Yeah.
And the comments were not they were not kind.
Ooh, no. So yeah, it reminded me, unfortunately, of Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, which honestly that might be in contender of my least favorite sequel, at least that I've seen. I'm sure there's worse movies. I'm sure there's worse and worse movies.
Yeah.
But just a personal disliking of mine was The Crimes of Grindelwald. It's just backstory and setup. There's not an actual plot. There's not a story. There's character development, but even still, it's just explaining what's going to happen. Like J.K. Rowling, she could write novels, but novels and screenplays are two very different things.
Massive.
And what could be good chapters of a book does not translate to screen at all. When you're watching, they're just looking at characters explain who they are and what their backstory is. And by the time things actually interesting happens, it's set up for the next movie that's not going to come out 4 years later, and the credits roll. So it's like, oh, cool. Well, the interesting thing just happens as the credits roll. Great.
Yeah, that's
I'm sure if the film was fresh in my mind, I'd probably have more to say. But truth be told, I think I've forgotten most of it.
I can imagine.
That's a good example of a more recent sequel that's been a bit of a letdown. Because in preparation for this episode, when I was thinking about sequels that have disappointed me, most of them are quite, they're getting on a bit now, So I was trying to think of more recent sequels, and that's right, because the first Fantastic Beasts movie, I went into it not really expecting much at all, because the Harry Potter universe and things like that, I'm aware of it, but I'm not really a massive fan, to be honest with you. So I went in and I really enjoyed the initial sort of 1920s New York setting and things like that. I think it was 1920s or whichever it was. And then I liked Eddie Redmayne and things like that. But the second one, I agree with you. The second one just seemed like it was one signpost after another, like saying, like look over here, then look over there. It's almost like saying, like, oh no, this character is going to be big in the third film.
In the next movie, yeah exactly. The third or the fourth or the fifth.
So not going to be like 5, is it?
There is, they announced 5. I think that the problem was the first one is, hey, it's the best film ever based on a fictional textbook. You could say that. I think the first one was enjoyable. Not a patch on Harry Potter, but enjoyable. But I like the idea of just it wasn't bound by the Harry Potter canon, you could say. It was just its own thing about this professor collecting magical creatures and just having a nice adventure. I think just the problem is they're trying to connect everything back to the canon of Harry Potter and Dumbledore, Grindelwald, and it's like it just feels like it makes the universe smaller than it could be.
Yeah, I think it's a wee bit convoluted as well sometimes when you get films and TV. When you get films and especially TV series that try to connect everybody and everything to past events or past characters. Excuse me, it's like, not that it's bad, because I'm actually enjoying it. We've all seen it, Cobra Kai. It almost,
yeah.
Now, this is in no way an example of a bad sequel. I love the show, but it's one of those shows that's walking the fine line of almost every character introduced is connected in somehow to everybody else. You know what it makes it?
You should see the fan theories, the amount of fan theories I've seen that's like Tori is Crease's daughter or Miguel is Terry Silver's son.
Yeah. Oh, we've got a fourth co-host in the back there.
Be a second.
But yeah, I don't want to go off a tangent there speaking about Cobra Kai, but yeah, that would be an example of one of those instances where it becomes sort of unrealistic and unbelievable when almost every
are really that many of them that connected though?
No. Not that they are connected officially, but that's what I'm saying. Like, people are coming up with all these fan theories saying that, you know, like Andrew just says that Kreese is somebody's father or whatever, you know. I mean, it's just
I don't think. If they go that route, I wouldn't be that impressed, to be honest with you. I think another one's the new guy coming into it. Terry Silver is in the third, or Silva. Is it Silver or Silva?
Silver, as in the metal.
He was obviously the villain in the third film coming into the fourth season, and I think I've seen fan theories saying that he's Tori's dad or something like that, and I'm like, that doesn't as you say, not everyone needs to be related to each other, you know.
And once again, the king, the emperor of tangents and railroading, I've somehow managed to make that relevant to our discussion just now. Cobra Kai, the Karate Kid movies.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that we talk about 3. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if you've seen that, Andrew, but I think 2 is actually passable as a sequel.
Well, but were you saying that you actually... I've only seen like clips of them, so I've not actually seen them all the way through. A lot of these iconic franchises, I've only seen the originals, like Matrix, Jaws, Karate Kids, just because I've always been told, like, don't bother with any of the sequels, so I haven't.
So what are you doing on this episode?
I know. We got the wrong person on.
I'm only kidding. But no, what I was going to say about Karate Kid, the franchise, was that that's a good example, in my opinion, of the first and second one are good, but the third one, in my opinion, isn't the best. It gets
I think most folk are agreed. It just sort of repeated the same story as the first one, and kind of had a few plots that never went anywhere. Like, and Daniel it's not even a real love interest, just a female friend. I think because the age difference between Ralph Macchio and the girl who played, obviously that girl, was like a good bit at that point. I think Macchio was married. You know, he just happens to look very young.
Well, he wasn't
old. Comfortable.
Yeah,
he was nearing 30 at that point, I think.
He looks really good for his age, but
he was not a Karate Kid anymore.
No, he's a Karate Man.
Aye. But yeah, so they sort of wrapped that plot up very quickly, and it never really went anywhere, and she's kind of a bit forgotten. But the acting was over the top, you know. Silver was just over eccentric villain, you know. It's never really made sense.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that point that I was going to make, you know, when you were talking about the Jaws sequels. And this is something, Andrew, that Neil and I have been speaking about recently. And just for the benefit of the viewers, listeners, and yourself, I'll reiterate the point that I made to Neil. And maybe there's some weight to it. Maybe it's rubbish. You decide. You draw the verdict. But what I would say is, film franchises where there's been a sequel that's been good, it's often the case that the first and second one are good, but as soon as the third one in the trilogy or the third one in the franchise is often considered the weakest point. For example, I mean, Karate Kid there, it's a good one. Godfather as well. It's almost universally stated that Godfather Part 3 is the weakest of the trilogy. So
we're of course talking about X-Men last week, and
X-Men
the Last Stand
as
could
well.
kind of come into that category.
Exactly.
And X-Men Apocalypse from
depending
the
which way you sort of look at it, but no, that I would say that was worse than Last Stand. Actually, Apocalypse, I was really disappointed with that.
And then
I can agree, yeah.
Terminator Judgment Day, the third one. Oh no, sorry, Terminator
Rise of the Machines.
Rise of the
Machines. Rise of the Machines.
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't terrible, but still,
it had some interesting ideas.
Yeah.
I like the idea of John Connor, like after he saved the future.
Yeah, I don't think I was keen on that actor, to be honest with you. I don't even know who he is.
No, he seemed a bit. That was bad casting in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think he was in anything else, or at least I know.
Well, Claire Danes was in it. I think she was the biggest.
Of course, yeah.
And Arnie.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I guess the point I'm trying to make is usually with a lot of these franchises. Oh, and Alien 3 as well. That's another one. Alien 3 is often considered the weakest.
I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean 3, The World's End.
Oh god, yeah, that's.
I enjoyed it when it came out, but I watched it a couple of years ago again. I was like, yeah, it's not that great.
I mean, with World's End, it had some cool moments.
It did.
See, as a kid, you're watching after a year of build-up, Jack Sparrow finally fights Davy Jones. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The actual plot itself, I couldn't tell you what the heck went on because I don't know.
No, I couldn't explain the plot to you either.
Davy Jones's locker and all this stuff. I didn't get it. But
the pirate god Calypso.
Oh, I didn't get that bit either. And then there's the pirate brethren. And
so, would you say it's a fair verdict to make that a lot of these film franchises seem to do well with the second one, but they really don't? They start to decline in quality in the third one. They can't just. No matter how hard they try, they just can't capture the magic of the first and the second one. Because I think it's also fair to say as well that out of the original Star Wars trilogy, Return of the Jedi is considered, the third film is considered to be the weakest of the original trilogy. So I think there's something about the third film in these sequels. It's often if a film franchise can have a good third sequel, then they're set and they're doing well. Mm-hmm. Because I think it's very rare. It's very rare to think of a third film or franchise that's really good.
Yeah, the only one that comes off the top of my head, I know this is a worse sequel topic, but very briefly, was probably for Ragnarok, really, which sort of went in the opposite direction. I've not actually seen 4, 1, and 2, so I can't give much of an opinion on that, but I saw the third one and it was a pretty decent film. But maybe you know more about that, Andrew.
Yeah, the third one was a bit where they started to have a bit more fun with Thor. I think the first and second Thor films, they didn't really know what to do with him. Whereas the third one, it was just a case of let's just have fun.
Yeah, it seemed to work.
Yeah, exactly. And then to your point, Craig, I for the most part I agree. There's a lot of exceptions though. I think I know this is a worse sequel topic, but Last Crusade, I think is one of the best Indiana Jones movies.
I think that's the best of the trilogy in my opinion.
Was that the third one?
Yeah.
It was, Was
it? I thought Temple of Doom was the third one.
No,
that was the second one.
Really? All right.
Yeah.
And that was
Temple of Doom was my favorite.
Not a lot of people know this, and I might be wrong, but just a quick little tidbit of information that apparently Temple of Doom is a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Set a couple of years before.
Yeah. But a lot of people love Raiders the best, but Last Crusade's always been my favorite with Sean Connery and Jonathan Davies. Jonathan Davies.
Jonathan Rhys Davis.
John Rhys Davis. Sorry, that's the one. So yeah, that's always been my favorite of the trilogy. But
I
anyway,
guess whilst on the topic of Indiana Jones, though, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
Would that be?
yeah, that links in well, Andrew. Thank you, thank you for keeping us on topic.
Yeah.
We need someone like you to
Thank
keep
you.
us sane. So yeah, Curse of the, what was it called? Curse of
The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's a good example of a long-awaited sequel. I cast my mind back to 2006, 2007 when that film came out, and or it might have been 2008. There was a lot of hype surrounding it, you know, because at that time it had been 20 years since the last one. And then it came out and it was just such a dud, you know, it just felt like such a dud. And then there was that infamous scene where he survives the nuclear test when he gets inside a lead-lined fridge and it manages to like save him, and then you've got the fire ants and everything, and I mean,
and there's an aliens at the end too.
There is, yes.
There is, yeah.
It's
I mean, maybe it's because The Last Crusade was such a great ending. Like, I think the final shot where he's riding into the
ride off into the
is
sunset,
the perfect ending. And maybe if it was like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and then Last Crusade, I wouldn't have been so bitter about it. So maybe it was just a case of Last Crusade was such a
They're
great
making
ending.
a fifth one, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Has he not broken his leg or something?
It's Indiana Jones Escape from the Care Home. I think that's what it's called.
But who's directing it? James Mangold of Logan.
Oh, to be fair, James Mangold is very good.
That gives me some hope. That does give me some faith. Yeah. I think Harrison Ford might have been injured, or somebody was certainly injured on the set of that.
I think he broke his leg, did he not, or something like that? Maybe not as extreme as that.
I think that might have been on Force Awakens, but certainly recently on the set of, because after all, let's also remember that Indy 5 is being shot here in Scotland as well, or at least it was. I'm pretty sure someone was injured on the set, but anyway, we'll have to wait and see how that turns out.
Was.
But here's my choice for poor sequels, and if you guys have seen them, maybe some of the viewers, listeners have seen them, they might agree or disagree. The Matrix sequels. So the first one, in my opinion, is fantastic because it's obviously, I think it's loosely based on a novel by William Gibson called The Neuromancer. And the whole concept of we're living inside a machine's interpretation of reality, and it's all simulated, and the real world's like post-apocalyptic, and it's just fantastic. And the action sequence heavily inspired by East Asian cinema, Hong Kong action cinema, and John Woo. It was just so good. But I think it should have been a one and done. You know, I don't think it should have been dragged out into 2, 3, and now we're getting a fourth one coming up as well, you know. I honestly think that Matrix is a film that could have benefited from just one, because the second one, Matrix Revolution, or is it Matrix Reloaded? I get
Revelations, is it?
No, Revolutions.
Or is that Assassin's Creed?
That's Assassin's Creed name. Yeah, but the second and third one, it just got too convoluted, too complicated, too complex, and it went almost overboard with all of the sort of the metaphors and the symbolism, and you know, you've got Trinity, and then there's a lot of like religious subtext, and it just seemed to be, it was too trying to be too like artsy fartsy, you know. But anyway, that's my opinion. What do you guys think?
I've not actually seen The Matrix, to be honest with you.
I mean, I've seen the first one. I will probably see. I'm curious about the new one, so I'll probably rewatch. I'll probably watch the trilogy, watch the sequels for the first time.
Don't bother. Don't even bother. Just watch the first one, and I'm pretty sure that you could watch the first one and then skip out 2 and 3 and still be able to understand the new one. Because
Maybe. I mean, I'll have to see because there's an anime or some sort of game that ties into the movies as well, which is why Morpheus isn't played by Lawrence Fishburne in the new movie.
Was he not played by
uh,
Lawrence Fishburne in the new movie?
no, he's
No.
not. It's a different actor. But the thing is, and spoilers, guys, spoilers. You've got a 5-second spoiler warning right here. If you want to see it, don't listen in for the next minute or so. Okay, good. Right, you're away. It doesn't make sense because at the end of the third film, Trinity, Carrie-Anne Moss, her character actually dies, but she's in the fourth one. So yeah, I don't know if they're just wiping the slate clean or if this is supposed to be set in a different version of the Matrix, or I don't actually know what's going on in the new
Are
one.
they doing like what Terminator Dark Fate did, which is just ignore all the sequels and carry off of Judgment Day? I don't know.
They might be just backtracking a wee bit, but yeah, fair enough. But we'll wait and see. I think that's out on the 22nd or the 23rd of December in the cinema, anyway, the fourth one.
Mhm.
So we'll wait and
Yeah.
see. We'll wait and see what that brings. And also, as Neil and I sort of touched upon, I think in last week's episode, when we were talking about horror franchise sequels, like the sequels to Friday the 13th and Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street, I think it's fair to say that very rarely are the sequels better. Very rarely are the sequels actually good in quality compared to the first.
Yeah.
Like Halloween, we're going to save a lot of these franchises because I think we're having a few Halloween themed episodes coming up in the month of October. But I'll just briefly touch upon this. Each of those franchises that I just mentioned, Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, the originals are good and they have at least one or two good sequels. But I think it's fair to say that the rest of them you can take them or leave them. Halloween 1 and 2 are fantastic. Friday the 13th, the original, is good. Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 3, like I said in the last episode, are good, but the rest of them are meh, And there was just recently a sequel to Halloween as well. I can't remember what it's
Yeah,
called.
there's the follow-up to that one coming out soon.
Yeah, Halloween Kills, I think it's
That's
called.
the one, Halloween Kills. Yeah, so these franchises are still going. I mean,
Yeah, it's still going. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is another one. It's had loads.
Mhm.
Wrong Turn.
Yeah.
It just had a remake. Child's Play as well.
Yeah.
They're just. There's a Child's Play TV series coming out. Even I don't think it's connected to the film or the remake that was released a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
But I don't know if this is it Brad Dourif?
Brad Dourif, yeah, he done the voice.
Yeah, from Lord of the Rings, who was the voice of Chucky.
Yeah, that's right.
I think he might be voicing it.
I'm not sure if he's doing the voice for it, but
I have a feeling he might be.
I want to say,
yeah, as we're saying, just tons and tons of sequels.
Yeah, and they're still going.
Yeah, I know. And they're
and-
going backwards and forwards. They're doing a remake, and then they're going back to the original. It's hard to keep up.
And Insidious is another one. The first one's really good, but the rest of them kind of go downhill after that. But anyway, like I say, folks, we're going to try and move away from horror as a genre because especially Neil and I, in October and the run up to Halloween, to celebrate Halloween, it's a festive, we're excited. We're going to have some horror themed specials to look forward to soon.
Absolutely.
Soon to be determined topics, but we'll maybe have a few different guests on as well to talk about these things. But anyway, so yeah, Andrew, Neil, if you've got any other ideas for sort of bad sequels or poor sequels, disappointing or whatever, just fire away because I'm eager to hear what you've got to say.
Yeah, well, I'm going to kind of go back on what you said about not talking about horror, but I wanted to just briefly mention It Chapter 2.
We said no horror, Neil.
I know, but I've got
God
loads
damn
of
it,
other
Neil.
ones, but I just felt like It Chapter 2 comes under this category.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and the first It, which came out in 2017, was one of my favorite films, especially that year. But obviously, the book, it has like the bit of the kids. For those that don't know, it's kind of like a coming of age story. I say it more falls into that category than a straight up horror. And obviously, you know, there's Pennywise the clown, this demonic shape-shifting clown from outer space who likes to eat children and feeds off their fear and all that. And yeah, it one was a really good film. Really enjoyed it, quite surprising. And of course, because it did well, they're making chapter 2, which follows the adults then 25 years later. And much like the It miniseries with Tim Curry, the stuff with the adults just doesn't work. And it's the same within the book. I don't know, have you guys seen it at all?
I've seen the first one, and I've seen parts.
Have you actually seen the first one? Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen parts of the original.
Mm-hmm. All right, I saw the miniseries, but chapter 2 for me. I mean, the weird thing is, I didn't think it was going to be a great film, because problem with it is the source material. The source material itself's just not. I mean, it's an all right, but it's just not as good as the kids.
It's just
stuff.
not there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it lose a bit of charm because they were adults rather than kids?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I just couldn't imagine Jaden Martell, who played the main character, growing up to be James McAvoy, and same with Sophia Lillis into Jessica Chastain.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't bad in it, but it was just hard to sort of believe that they were the same characters as the kids, you know?
Yeah, and I just thought of another classic franchise, just while you were speaking there, Neil, that you could say is made up of sequels, and it's got a few that are better than others and worse than others. And I'm sorry for actually doing the very thing that we said makes a bad sequel, setting up the next thing. But
yeah,
this is going to be something that Andrew and I and our friend Daniel are going to be talking about, the James Bond franchise. That's full of sequels. Well, you could say, I know they're standalone, essentially. I know they're self-contained.
Yeah.
But overall...
With the exception of a couple.
Yeah, I mean, overall... with James Bond as a character, they are all connected, so they could be interpreted as being sequels. So yeah, there's quite a few bad eggs in that one to talk about, and I'm sure that Andrew and Daniel will have a good discussion regarding that. There's plenty to dive into there.
Can't wait.
Yes, so that will be one to look forward to.
Yes, I'll probably sit that one out. Not so much into the James Bond films I am.
Just a minute, I need to go and make sure that 007 knows who his next target is.
Skyfall was good. That was the last one I saw. I enjoyed Casino Royale as well. Quantum of Solace for a bad sequel, though. That was I didn't care.
I mean,
for that,
I'll give Quantum of Solace like not a pass. It's still bad, but at the same time, it was made at the time of a writer's strike.
True.
So they pretty much had to make it up as they went along.
Yeah,
like,
no, you can't be too harsh on it.
That's true. I would probably say that Quantum of Solace is, again, I'm going to save the bulk of this point for our episode with Daniel, Andrew, because you'll probably have some counterpoints to make. I'd say Quantum of Solace. I'd say Quantum of Solace is among my bottom 3 of the Bond franchise. It's
okay.
Yeah, it's I don't rate it at all. Especially out of the Daniel Craig films, it's my least favorite out of all of them.
I mean, it's sandwiched in between Casino Royale and Skyfall, so anything between those two would probably...
I would say the only one of the things that I do like about it is it does act like an immediate aftermath to Casino Royale. You know, you see what happens in the immediate aftermath of Bond shooting Mr. White in the leg, and then he's got him in the boot of his car, whatever. And then I do like how it's connected like that. And then it's got sort of that wraps up the whole Eva Green's character, you know, that sort of thing.
At least it did, though, because I remember so back in 2008, I had never seen James Bond before. So I binged all...
What?
Yeah, you're not seen it by that time.
2008, yeah. So
Good
I
Lord.
binged all of the James Bond films from Dr. No to Casino Royale in preparation for Quantum
I
of
just
Solace.
presumed you'd been watching it all your life because you're such
All
a
of
massive
it.
fan.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy to hear, because No, it's one of those things. It puts it into perspective because
Uh-huh.
James Bond and Star Wars are two
Yeah.
franchises that I grew up with, and I'm familiar with them, And to hear, especially hear my friends say that they hadn't watched it, especially with you, Neil, they aren't really that familiar with them. It sort of makes me realize, oh yeah, well, I suppose that makes sense because there's just some things that people watch, and then there's some
Yeah.
things that people don't watch.
Hard for them. Yeah.
I just thought James Bond was one of those things that, because it's such a staple of British culture and British cinema, I just thought it's something that everybody had seen. But fair enough.
I mean, I've seen most of them. Well, probably not most of them, to be honest. Not so much the older ones, but I mean, I have seen a good portion of it. I know a fair amount. It's just it just doesn't do it for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But
yeah, Andrew, that's a good point you make about the Bond films. About the Daniel Craig Bond films, and the Quantum of Solace being written during a writer's strike. Given those circumstances, I suppose it speaks for itself.
yeah, so as I was going to say, watching the James Bond films for the very first time, I'd watched On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and the ending, spoiler alert for On Her Majesty's Secret Service, but it ends with Bond getting married, and then his wife is shot by Blofelds straight after their wedding.
Yeah,
So
Diana
and it
Rigg.
cuts, yeah, it was amazing, by the way. So it cuts to the credits. So of course, like what 12-year-old me is thinking, oh my goodness, the next Bond film's going to be epic. Bond's going to go out. He's going to get revenge. I need to watch Diamonds Are Forever right now. And they kind of just gloss over it. She's not mentioned again. Bond is just back to his old playboy ways. And I was so disappointed.
It was awful because you're right. Apart from like the opening sequence, which lasts maybe about 15 minutes, if that,
Yeah.
probably not even that, 10 minutes, is like Bond like interrogating all these different people, trying to find out where,
which was awesome. And I was so like, okay, I'm so ready for this.
Because he's like asking where Blofeld is so he can find him and get his revenge. And then presumably he kills him. He thinks he kills him, and then you're right, within the space of like half an hour, he's already hooking up with someone else. So it just doesn't.
I know, he got over her very quickly.
It just doesn't the tone is all off, That's what I'm saying. Like, if you look at, and we'll save a lot of this for the future episode, but if you look at all, was it 23, 24 Bond films now?
24, 25 next, 25 with No Time to Die.
Well, if you look at the 24 up to this point, the tone is skewed all over the place. The Sean Connery films, they're quite violent and gritty for the time anyway. And then you got into the Roger Moore films, which were a wee bit more slapstick and goofy.
Yeah.
Especially, for example, Octopussy, when he's swinging from a tree and there's like a Tarzan call. It's just so silly. And then it gets really dark with Timothy Dalton. Obviously, you've got License to Kill, which is obviously supposed to be going for the whole Miami Vice sort of 80s Scarface chainsaw thing. And then you've got...
I think License to Kill is the only Bond film to be rated a 15.
15, yeah. Because it is quite violent. And then obviously Pierce Brosnan, which I actually think balanced the really fine line of being charming and funny in places, but also being quite ruthless, especially in GoldenEye, and then you've got Daniel Craig, who has just always been the same, in my opinion. I think, and this might be controversial to say, but Daniel Craig is probably my least favorite Bond out of all of them.
Okay.
He doesn't have much personality, really, does he?
No, he's always like, and I just hated the whole thing. Like, there's a few like one-liners, which it seemed as it was played for comedic effect, but it just didn't. It just didn't hit to me. It was like when in Casino Royale, when he goes up to the bar and the barman says, "Shaken or not stirred," and then Daniel Craig's like, "Does it look like I give a damn?" So it's like it's not. the previous Bond film, they wouldn't have even said that. You know, I mean, they would have just said "shaken, not stab." You know?
Yeah, it was a wee bit on the nose, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Just a little bit.
well,
in terms of, well, we'll talk more about the James Bond films the
Yeah.
next time, which I'm excited for. You're talking about inconsistent tone. When you said that, two sequels came to mind, and that's Superman: The Quest for Peace and A Good Day to Die Hard. Now, those are, when you look at the original films in that franchise compared to those sequels, yeah, no, or like Batman Forever. It's that's a whole
Oh
different
well, yeah,
discussion.
that's not even in the
But
same league.
yeah, I know. But the tone is so drastic. With the Quest for Peace. Okay, I get that Christopher Reeve wanted to tell a story from his heart about Superman versus nuclear weapons, and it is a shame that the budget got torn in half as at the middle of production. So when you're watching the movie, whenever Superman's flying on screen, it's actually a still photo of the first movie flying towards the camera, and it's really cringeworthy. And then A Good Day to Die Hard, it's so watered down
Oh, yeah.
compared to the first Die Hards.
I mean,
He
I
doesn't
think-
even say his iconic catchphrase.
No. They do this. They try to get away with it because he says "yippee ki mother," and then just as he says the F, there's an explosion or something that senses
Of
it out.
course.
But you're right about that because A Good Day to Die Hard, the fourth film in the fifth film in the franchise,
Yeah.
was the first one to be a 12. It was rated a 12 here in the UK,
Oh.
and you go into a Die Hard film, you're expecting grit and action.
Yeah.
You're not going
Is
to
that
get
the
that.
one with Jai Courtney?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's a good example. Again, that's a good call for a franchise with dodgy sequels, because the first one, obviously Die Hard, Alan Rickman and Bruce Willis, iconic. Contentious for me to say this, but it's often argued as the best Christmas film ever made.
I still like the Santa Claus and the Snowman.
Yes, well, I can't remember the scene in the Santa Claus where a group of terrorists take over Nakatomi Plaza.
To be honest, could talk about Santa Claus 2 and 3, but I don't really remember much about them.
Yeah.
Just that they were bad.
Well, we'll come back to that in a minute. Let me just make this point. So yeah, Die Hard 1, amazing. Die Hard 2 is the weakest in my opinion. I didn't really enjoy the second one. The third one, which a lot of people dislike, and a lot of people might not know this, but that was originally supposed to be a Lethal Weapon film.
Yes, that's
Samuel L.
right.
Jackson.
Yeah. That was written as a Lethal Weapon film, but it was adapted into the Die Hard franchise because that's why you've got the Sam Jackson character teaming up with Bruce Willis. That was originally going to be Danny Glover and Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon.
I can see it.
That's actually the only Die Hard I've seen, believe it or not.
The third one.
Yeah,
Really?
just happened to be on TV one day, watched it, enjoyed it, but I've not actually seen the first one.
Well, I think it's really good, but a lot of people just dislike it. But
I thought it was a good film. Who was the bad guy? Was it Guy Pearce?
No, Jeremy Irons
No, it
was.
Yes.
Jeremy Irons.
Scar.
Yeah. I got that. I got that.
He's with his gravelly, deep voice, and just so good. But maybe I've got a soft spot for it because it's set in New York. But no, I love the film. And then the fourth one was getting kind of silly with Timothy Olyphant and.
I've not seen the fourth one. That's the only Die Hard film I've not seen.
Well, basically, it seemed quite high tech at the time. It came out in like 2007, and I remember as a kid, obviously, shouldn't have been watching it, but I did. I remember at the time thinking, "Wow, this is so high tech." There's like hacking, and there's the flip phones that were all the big thing back then, and. Now you go back and you watch it, it's not aged very well because the technology is so outdated, but and then obviously, as we just said, the fifth one was terrible. A Good Day to Die Hard.
Did you guys ever watch the Disney straight DVD sequels to all their movies?
Oh, you mean like the Lion King 2 and all that?
Yeah, like Lion King 2 and Cinderella 2 and
Well, I'd
it's
be very
alright.
surprised, Neil, if Disney done a straight to DVD sequel to Die Hard.
Well, I was confused what Andrew was going for. For a sec, he didn't really lead into it.
No,
That's why I'm.
no. Come to think of it, I've seen the one where Scar takes over Nakatomi Plaza, and no, sorry, that was the one. Something out. No, sorry to cut in with that childish joke. So I've not seen any of the straight to DVD sequels for Disney films, apart from I think the Atlantis. I think there was a sequel to Atlantis on DVD that I've maybe seen, and then
There's a sequel to all the Disney
Well, there
films.
probably is like Tarzan, Aladdin.
Oh, yeah.
I think I might have seen the Aladdin one. I've seen the
there's
Tarzan one
Aladdin.
as well. They've probably just been on TV or something. I've just watched them when I was really young, but didn't pay much attention to them.
Yeah.
Lion King 2, I think, was the only one I actually had on video, though. And I actually really enjoyed Lion King 2.
You know what? That's
But
a
I
good.
tell you what, I've seen the third one. Is that just with Timon and Pumbaa, if I'm
Yes.
Yeah.
that's,
I didn't like that one. And I was even as a child, I didn't like that.
Here's a question for you, and I bet you it's a question with a glaringly obvious answer to it. But has there actually been a sequel to an animated Disney film shown in the cinema?
Oh.
Or are they all straight to DVD? The sequels.
Well, there was Frozen recently, and Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph Breaks the Internet. But in terms of their classic films, I think they were all straight to DVD.
Yeah, probably not. I
Yeah.
think Peter Pan had a direct to DVD one as well.
Yeah,
A video
some
at that
Neverland.
time.
Yeah, I don't think any of them were any of the sequels anyway to the original classics were ever released in the cinema. I don't think.
What about 101 Dalmatians? Is that what it's called? 101 Dalmatians.
That's the first one.
Or what's the second one?
102 Dalmatians.
Presumably 102.
Well, there's the sequel to the live action 101 Dalmatians. There's also
Yeah.
the straight to DVD
Yeah, with Glenn-
animated.
It's got Glenn Close in it, I think, the live action.
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, you're right. I've seen that.
Unless the sequel is 202 Dalmatians.
Yes,
Is
maybe.
it 202? I have no idea.
Yes, because they just
That's
had
a lot of puppies.
it had a big litter of puppies, Neil. Get with the program. No, but
It's been ages since I've seen it.
yeah. Neil, I'm gonna hand it over to you because I feel quite bad for being quite mean to you with these jokes. Neil, you mentioned Santa Claus the sequels. Now,
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember an awful lot about them, so I probably can't go that in depth.
okay, well,
But I remember, like, was the second one, was it the escape clause, or was that? Yeah, I think so, because
The second one was he had to go find a Mrs. Claus, otherwise he wouldn't be Santa anymore.
yeah, and the third one was the
Right.
one with Jack Frost, I think.
Yeah.
right, and who played Jack Frost? What's the guy's Martin Short? was
Martin
it?
Short?
Yeah, that's it.
Mhm.
They just didn't
Maybe
have the same sort of magical feel as the first one.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's because, when I was a kid, I wasn't really thinking of the wordplay, but it only occurred to me in recent years, perhaps showing a bit of my, just a lapse in my brain activity here, but it only just recently occurred to me that the Santa Claus, as in clause in a contract, not Santa Claus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, I just had a eureka moment just for me.
yeah. No, I thought that was quite clever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
But
think
that's
just the problem is in the sequels, I guess Tim Allen just didn't want to be in the Santa makeup, so he had to spend most of it out like just regular Tim Allen.
Yeah. I can imagine it had been quite hefty with all that
But no,
weight on
the
top.
viewers, listeners, they can look forward to a Christmas themed episode in December, no doubt. So
Yeah,
I'm sure
still got a bit of time
Yes.
till then.
I'm sure we'll
To
come
prepare
back.
and watch all our Christmas movies.
Will
Don't
actually,
worry.
because I've not seen that many.
What I would say is, don't worry, folks. You might already. It's only the end of September, and you might already see Christmas decorations in shops and everything. But you're not going to see any more reference to Christmas here than whenever it's necessary. I promise you that.
I saw a
Because-
Christmas advert today on TV.
No. We're going off topic again, but Christmas is one of those things. If you get it too early, by the time it's Christmas, you're sick of it.
I
It's not
know,
Halloween
right?
yet.
Exactly. It's not even Halloween. It's not even Yeah, so come on.
Got to get my costume ready.
Come on. Santa Claus is coming, but not yet. So anyway, back
But
to
the second and third films weren't
However,
great. That's the
Nightmare,
point.
Nightmare Before Christmas, you could watch that and at Christmas.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But that's not got a sequel.
No, it
Does it?
doesn't.
No.
No,
I
yet.
don't believe it does. No. But
Yeah, being the key word.
oh, wow, I'm all sequeled out. So before we wrap up on poor sequels, guys, we've covered a lot, and as usual, we went off topic a wee bit.
Yes, I forgot what we were talking about.
Bad sequels and sequels that didn't live up to the original. There's plenty of them.
And there'll be plenty more.
There'll be plenty.
Just very quickly, what's your guys' thoughts on the proposed Joker sequel?
I mean, I haven't heard anything about it other than it might happen or might not. But
yeah, see, I thought it was a definite thing that was happening. I'm very skeptical about it.
It's nothing like I don't think Warner Brothers have confirmed it.
Right.
I think that is related to our topic because I think it's also crucial to consider unnecessary sequels, like we spoke about last time. Unnecessary sequels and bad sequels are often intertwined. They correlate and they're just connected. So I think Joker is a perfect example of a film that should just be a one and done.
Yeah,
and
I really hope they don't go through with the sequel, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like I was saying about the Matrix. In my opinion, that would have been good as a standalone one and done. Just like Joker, standalone one and done. That's fine.
See, I remember Todd Phillips, the director last year or the year before, he said that if there is a Joker sequel, he won't be the clown prince of crime. To which case I have to ask, well, why make a Joker sequel? Why make a Joker movie if he's not going to be the Joker that you set up for him to possibly be?
Well, to be honest with you, my interpretation of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is, I wouldn't say that clown prince of crime thing would suit him, because as the Joker character, his interpretation his portrayal of the character didn't seem to match up with what we would come to expect of the Joker. The Joker is this character who. Or did Neil just drop out?
Oh.
Neil, did you just drop out?
Am I back?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
You're still recording. My internet was acting up a bit, but hopefully that's it sorted.
It's all right.
Okay. Problems with maybe when we make a lot of money off this, we can get a studio and all be in the same room.
Yeah, that'd be good. But no, we'll just we'll mesh all this together.
That's fine.
Yeah, depending on which actor's portrayal of the Joker as being this sort of eccentric, crazy, sort of laughing and clowning around, especially sort of the Jack Nicholson's take on it.
I think what my point was more a case of this Joker. I don't see him as being the criminal, the mobster, mobster. Sorry, like I don't see him going in that direction, and I just don't see a sequel working if that's not going to be the direction. If that makes sense.
No, as I said to Neil a few times, I think Joker as a film works so well, in my opinion, because it can be taken and interpreted as a film that's set in that universe, but it also could be take out all reference to Gotham and to the Waynes. It could equally just be a film set in reality in New York or something like that.
Exactly.
And that's why I liked it so much, because it was so gritty and it wasn't so sort of flashy and sort of
laser beams in the sky.
Yeah, like a lot of
people are really skeptical about it as well. People weren't having it at all. They were slagging it off before they'd even seen it.
I think it's more this weird. Maybe this is a topic for the future, but it's this weird. Like I'm seeing a lot of things where movies that have protagonists that aren't morally good and they seem to ruffle a lot of feathers on Twitter, which I find quite interesting.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Well, regardless of all that, I personally thought it was a good film, and it's one of my favorite films of the last 10 years.
I'd say the exact same. You know, it's probably somewhere in my all-time category.
Nice.
And I think Joaquin Phoenix, he made
Deserved the Oscar.
He did.
Deserved the Oscar.
He definitely deserved it.
I mean, you got to give Todd Phillips a shout out for directing as well. You know, going from The Hangover to that. I know he had a couple other films in between, like Judy and War Dogs, but still, you know, massive jump. And he, of course, did films like sort of buddy comedies back in the day, or raunchy comedies like Road Trip, and I think Old School was another one. You know, films like Will Ferrell and Breckin Meyer, Sean William Scott, that early sort of 2000s comedy crowd.
They
so,
will.
You know,
as they go through their career, they will probably evolve and think, you know what, I've done this, I want to move on to something else.
But not everyone, though. I mean, you look at, I mean, as good as they are, Quentin Tarantino and Wes Anderson, for me, they just kind of make the same film with the same dialogue, same characters over and over again. Might be a bit harsh, and I do like their stuff, but you can always tell their film.
Well, I think directors adopt their own style, do they? Like Martin Scorsese is almost the poster child for the gangster film. And a lot of his films often star like DiCaprio, De Niro, and Joe Pesci, and all these different characters, and they're often shot and stylized in the same way. Just like Tarantino films are often, they're broken up into chapters or segments. And I think that's just the way it is. You know, I think each director sort of adopts their own style. But no, it's good that Todd Phillips has done that sort of journey of going from making those sort of films in the early 2000s to making something as impactful and significant as Joker. But no, I don't think that film needs a sequel.
No, I'd be very worried if it gets the green light.
Although that being said, I did at one time think that Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, didn't need a sequel, and then it had Blade Runner 2049, which is another one of my favorite films of the last 10 years. So who knows? We'll wait and see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, Andrew, any sort of suggestions just to conclude on this topic today?
I think we covered a lot. But like, I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's plenty of more that we haven't even covered yet.
Yeah, I'll think of something when you turn the recording off. No doubt.
Oh, most likely.
That's always the case. That's always the case. It's always one of those things like as soon as you come off of air, or as soon as you come off a recording, and I'm sure there's people listening to this who are screaming, saying, "Oh no, what about this one? What about this one?" But
what about Alien 4 or something like that?
Yeah, or what about Alien versus Predator 2, or any, you know, these random sort of choices. And put it this way, I don't think there's a franchise where every film is amazing. I think that every single franchise or movie title or even TV show that has spawned a sequel film or sequel series, it's got its good parts and it's got its bad parts. Nothing's perfect. And as we said at the tail end of last week's episode, film is so subjective. You're always going to find something that you like, and you're always going to find something that you dislike. That's just the way.
And no one sets out to make a bad film or bad show as well. Just something along the way, whether it's hype or whether it's something production issue wise.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because no one in their right mind would set out to waste, in some cases, millions and millions of dollars producing a film, wanting it to be bad or wanting it to be poorly received. They're wanting it to be good. You know, I mean, you guys know as well, and anyone who's listening who has ever tipped their hat in creativity, like writing or filmmaking or anything to do with using your imagination or putting your mind to practice, you always want it to be good. And whenever you're taking that gamble, taking that risk, taking that big step to showing it to people or to trying to get other people's opinions, it's so nerve-wracking, because you feel like you're exposing a part of yourself. And although a part of you does want constructive feedback, a part of you is thinking, oh no, I'm scared of the criticism, you know? So I don't think anybody in the industry sets out to deliberately make a bad sequel. You're right. There's often variables and different factors that play into it that can affect it, you know? But it is what it is. There's certainly good sequels and there's certainly bad sequels. Neil, the man with the hairstyle that never gives up.
No,
Andrew,
I like to change it.
yes, every time I see Neil, he's got a different haircut. Neil, any concluding thoughts?
No, much like Andrew, I think we've kind of summed it all up, to be honest with you. Like I said, I'll definitely think of some more and wish I'd made this point and that point. But all in all, I think we covered good ground today.
Indeed. And listeners, viewers, wherever you might be watching this, we hope you've had a good time listening in, and we hope that you've taken something away. If not, then, well, we hope you enjoyed seeing our faces. But anyway, let us know what you think of today's episode and today's topic. If there's any bad sequels that you think of, then certainly let us know in the comments or message us on our various social media pages. Let us know. And let us know if you'd like to come on and speak about join in a discussion. That'd be good to have some guests on at some point. And we'll be back next week with another topic. And also remember, look forward to October because we've got some things up our sleeve for the spooky Halloween.
It's going to be a horror show, I think, isn't it?
And apparently
Literally
the
and
festive
metaphorically.
season. Apparently the festive season in December as well.
Yes.
Well, yes, we like to plan ahead. We're very prepared.
Yes, we're like Iron Man 2 or Terminator Genesis. This is a sequel that sets up the future sequels.
Yes.
Exactly.
Return for the Halloween episode because it'll be excruciatingly scary. Anyway, folks, thanks for joining and take care. Good night, guys.
Catch you later.
Bye.